The hallway was louder than usual that morning, filled with lockers slamming, laughter echoing off tiled walls, and footsteps hurriedly moving toward first period. But in the middle of it all, there was one girl who didn't make a sound. Her name was Mia, 15 years old, shy to the bone, with a backpack twice her size and glasses always slipping down her nose. She walked with her shoulders tight, eyes focused on the floor, as if hoping no one would notice she existed. But of course, they noticed. Cameron and his crew always noticed. They were the kind of kids who took pride in being loud. The ones who never walked, they stomped. Who didn't speak, they barked. And they especially loved picking on the quiet ones. Mia had been on their radar since the first week of school. They'd whisper as she passed, block her locker, flick her, books from her hands. And no matter how many times the teachers were told, somehow nothing ever came of it. Nothing. Until today. As Mia turned the corner toward homeroom, the laughter behind her grew louder. She recognized the voices instantly. Cameron, his sidekick Tyler, and a girl named Lexi, who always smiled the brightest when someone else was hurting. Mia clenched her jaw and kept walking. "Hey, where you going, ninja nerd?" Cameron's voice cracked through the hallway. Mia froze, hands tightening around the straps of her backpack. She didn't answer. She never did. She'd learned that silence was safer. But this time, they weren't in the mood for silence. They caught up fast. Tyler knocked her backpack sideways, while Lexi burst out laughing. "What's the matter? Sensei, gonna karate chop us?" I said. Cameron stepped closer, grabbing her arm. "Where are you going?" Mia didn't make eye contact. She mumbled something barely audible and tried to pull away, but Cameron didn't let go. He sneered, eyes narrowing as if trying to squeeze fear out of her. Then suddenly, without warning, he yanked her shirt. There was a sharp, ugly rip. The sound echoed louder than the hallway itself. Gasps erupted. A few students stopped in their tracks. Someone whispered, "Yo, did he just—" Mia stood frozen, her face flushed red, hands trembling as she held her torn shirt together. But her eyes were different now. What nobody at Lincoln High knew, what not even her teachers or closest classmates knew, was that Mia had been training in Judo since she was 6 years old. Her parents were instructors. Her weekends were tournaments. Her life was discipline. She didn't brag about it. She didn't show it. But she remembered every hold, every pivot, every takedown. She looked up just once, and something in Cameron's face shifted. It was as if, for the first time, he saw something behind. "Those glasses, that wasn't fear. I warned you," she whispered. And then, it happened so fast, most students only saw a blur. Mia stepped in, pivoted on one foot, and hooked Cameron's arm in perfect form. His feet left the ground, literally left, and he flew down the hallway, landing hard on his back with a stunned grunt that echoed like a dropped drum. Tyler lunged at her instinctively, but she was faster. Another pivot, another grab. And this time, it was Tyler who ended up sliding across the floor like a kicked hockey puck. Lexi screamed. The hallway was silent. Mia stood in the middle of it all, breathing steady, still holding her shirt with one hand. Her eyes scanned the frozen faces around her, but she wasn't looking for applause. She was looking for an exit. That's when a voice from behind her cut through the silence. "Miss, are you all right?" It was Mr. Rowan, the assistant principal. His tone was serious, but his eyes, surprised, shocked, like he'd just watched a ghost do a backflip. Before Mia could speak, another voice piped up, shaky and loud. "She attacked us. We were just talking, and she flipped us out of nowhere." Cameron, still on the ground, pointed. A trembling hand, as if his pride could somehow cover up what just happened. Mia didn't argue. She didn't explain. She just looked at Mr. Rowan and said, "I'd like to go to the nurse." And then she walked. Past the stairs, past the whispers, past the phones that had just begun recording. Straight to the front office dot. But what Mia didn't know, what nobody knew yet, was that this one moment, this one decision to stand her ground, would spiral into something far bigger than a hallway scuffle. The school district would get involved. News crews would show up. Parents would demand answers. But most of all, people would finally start asking who Mia really was. And that's not even the full story, because 3 states over, on a crowded city bus in Atlanta, Georgia, a completely different kind of moment was unfolding. One that had nothing to do with judo or bullying, and yet everything to do with choices. Jamal was 17, a quiet teen, raised right, who minded his business and kept his headphones in like it was armor. But that day, something made him look up. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was fate. A pregnant woman had just stepped onto the bus, flustered, tired, no seats in sight. No one moved. People glanced and looked away. Some even smirked. Jamal didn't hesitate. He stood up and offered her his seat with a small smile, then went back to standing without a word. No drama, no ego, just simple kindness. The woman sat down slowly, clearly surprised. She looked up at him with soft eyes. "Thank you," she said. He nodded and turned away. But before she got off at her stop, she reached into her purse and handed him a folded note. No explanation, just a smile. Jamal opened it, and what he read made his legs. Weak. His whole life changed that day. And somehow, it would end up colliding with Mia's. But not yet. Not until a series of choices, strangers, and moments no one could predict would bring them face to face. Right when they'd need each other most. And that's where it all really begins. ChatGPT said, Jamal sat on the back of the bus, the note still in his hand, fingers curled around it like it might vanish if he let go. The words written inside echoed in his mind over and over, each line pressing deeper into his chest. It wasn't long or poetic. It didn't have any fancy quotes or inspirational fluff. It was simple, but it was heavy. You remind me of someone I lost a long time ago. The world needs more people like you. Don't ever change who you are. I've been searching for someone to help with something important. I think it might be you. There was no name, no number, just that strange, almost unreal message. Jamal read it again, his mind spinning with questions. What did she mean? Help with what? Why him? He wasn't used to attention, especially not from strangers. But there was something in her voice when she said thank you. Something quiet, like pain that hadn't been shared in years. And now this note, like a key to a door he hadn't even noticed before. The rest of the day passed in a fog. At school, he could barely focus. His teachers' voices became distant echoes, their words blurring into background noise as his thoughts stayed locked on that moment. That note, and the woman who she was, where she went, why she'd picked him. When he got home, he kept the paper tucked safely in his hoodie pocket. He didn't tell his mom. He didn't show his sister. It felt too personal, too strange to explain. Meanwhile, back at Lincoln High, the halls weren't quiet anymore. News of Mia's throw spread like wildfire. By lunchtime, the video was already circulating through every student's phone. Different angles, slow motion, some with music edited in. Ninja Girl was trending in group chats, and people who'd never said her name before were suddenly treating her like a myth. But Mia wasn't celebrating. She sat in the nurse's office long after her cut had been cleaned and her shirt replaced with a spare gym tee. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap, eyes locked on the floor. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. When the principal came in and asked her to explain what happened, she just said, "I reacted." That's it. No excuses, no blame. Just the truth. But the school wasn't ready for the truth. There was an emergency meeting called. Cameron's parents arrived, outraged. Tyler claimed he had a sore wrist. Lexi told staff she felt emotionally shaken. And yet, the videos didn't lie. What they showed wasn't a wild attack. It was control. It was self-defense. Mia didn't swing first, she responded. But the administration still couldn't decide. There were too many parents calling, too many emails from the district, and too many lawyers circling the situation like vultures waiting for a headline. That night, Mia sat on her bedroom floor. Back against the wall, her hands bandaged where her fingernails had dug in earlier that day. Her dad sat across from her. He hadn't said much when she got home, just hugged her tight and told her, "We'll talk when you're ready." Now, in the quiet of the room, she finally spoke. "I didn't want to," she said softly. "I really didn't. I panicked." Her father nodded. He understood panic. As a judo instructor, he taught kids how to manage their instincts. But when someone breaks your boundaries, when someone invades your body, training turns into reaction. And Mia had reacted with the precision of someone who trained her whole life. "You did what you had to do," he told her gently. "But it's not over yet, kiddo. This is just the start." Mia didn't answer, but she knew he was right. The looks in school wouldn't stop. The whispers, the videos, the comments online, it was all just beginning. And what scared her most wasn't the backlash. It was that, for the first time in her life, people saw her. Not the quiet girl with glasses. Not the nobody in the background. They saw her. And she didn't know if she liked it. 3 days later, Jamal was walking home from the corner store when he noticed a black SUV parked across the street. He didn't think much of it at first. Maybe someone waiting on Uber Eats or picking up a neighbor. But when he passed, the window rolled down just a crack. "You're Jamal, right?" The voice was calm, female, older. He stopped, blinked. "You, yeah? I was hoping we'd cross paths again." It was her, the pregnant woman from the bus. But she didn't look the same now. She was dressed sharply, in clean lines and dark sunglasses. No longer flustered or tired. She looked alert, prepared, like someone used to watching and waiting. "I didn't mean to scare you," she said. "I just didn't want to approach you in front of too many people." He glanced around, unsure. "Why, though? I don't even know you." "I know, but I know you." That didn't make sense. He narrowed his eyes, ready to back away. "You remind me of my brother," she said. "He was kind like you, brave without showing off. The kind of person who does the right thing when nobody's watching." Jamal was quiet. The world around him suddenly felt distant again, like he'd stepped into a different story entirely. "I left that note for a reason," she said. "I work with people who fix problems quietly. Sometimes the world forgets how powerful one good person can be." "I haven't." He didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to run. The other part, the deeper part, was curious. "I need your help," she said finally. "And I think you're ready, even if you don't know it yet." Before he could respond, she passed him a small black envelope through the window. Then the SUV pulled away, slow and smooth, and vanished down the block. Jamal stood in the fading sunlight, envelope in hand, heart pounding. Inside was a photograph. A girl, maybe his age. Torn shirt, glasses cracked. Standing in a school hallway, surrounded by students with phones raised. And underneath, a handwritten note. She stood alone. But not for long. Jamal stared at the photo for a long time. The hallway behind the girl looked like any other American high school beige walls. Gray lockers, blurry faces holding up phones. But it was her eyes that stuck with him. There was something raw in them. Not fear, exactly. Not even anger. Just resolve. Like someone who'd just been broken and rebuilt in the same breath. He flipped the photo over. Nothing else. No address. No name. Just the note. She stood alone, but not for long. He slipped the photo and the envelope into his jacket pocket and walked home without really feeling the ground under his feet. His mind ran faster than his legs. Who was this girl? What did the woman want him to do? Why him? The questions were piling up like bricks, but no answers came. All he knew was that whoever the girl was, she needed help. And somehow he was already involved. At school the next day, he sat in the back of the library, staring at his phone. He didn't search for anything specific, just scrolled mindlessly until a familiar image popped up on a trending page. Shy girl body slams bullies. In school hallway. The title felt like a punch. Jamal clicked. It was her. The same moment from the photograph, frozen mid-motion, as she sent a boy twice her size, flipping through the air. The video had been edited, replayed in slow motion, and shared thousands of times. Comments ranged from praise to mockery. Some people called her a hero. Others said she was dangerous. A few said she should be arrested. And even more were arguing whether the move was real martial arts or just luck. Jamal didn't care about any of that. All he saw was someone who got pushed too far and pushed back. He dug deeper. Within minutes, he found her name. Mia Thompson. Lincoln High School. State over. Not far, actually. Just a few hours by bus. A few clicks later, he found her student profile online. Nothing major. Just a local district page. But it confirmed she was 15, on her roll, and had a record of 0 disciplinary actions before. The incident. The more he read, the more the pieces clicked into place. The woman from the SUV hadn't picked him by chance. She knew this girl. She knew what Mia had done. And now, for some reason, she was connecting the two of them like dots in a larger picture Jamal couldn't see yet. Meanwhile, at Lincoln High, Mia's world was shifting faster than she could handle. Half the school now looked at her like a legend. Some students whispered behind her back, calling her ninja like it was a joke. Others gave her awkward smiles in the hallway, as if they expected her to break out in combat moves at any second. But the worst were the teachers. Their eyes didn't say, "You're brave." They said, "You're trouble." She started staying home more. Her parents told the school she needed space. Mental health leave. But the truth was, Mia didn't trust herself to be around that many people. Her fists had stayed steady, her stance had stayed clean, but her heart was still pounding days later. Not because of fear, because of what came next. Because late one night, someone had thrown a rock through their living room window. No one got hurt, but it sent a message. A warning. The note attached simply said, "This isn't over." Her dad had checked the security. Cameras. A figure in a hoodie. Unidentifiable, too fast to catch. Police filed a report, but didn't say much. Just teenagers being stupid, they guessed. But Mia knew. Cameron wasn't done. And if it wasn't him directly, it was someone from his circle. They weren't used to losing, and she'd embarrassed them publicly, permanently. They would find a way to take it back. Back in Atlanta, Jamal was still wrestling with the envelope and the decision it was forcing on him. He'd reread the note 3 times that morning before leaving the house, the weight of it heavier than his backpack. He wanted to help, but what did that even mean? Was he supposed to just show up? Say what? "Hi, I got a mysterious photo of you from a stranger in an SUV." Still, something inside him said go. Not because he thought he could save her, but because maybe. Just maybe? She wasn't the only one standing alone. He bought a bus ticket after school. Told his mom he was going to visit a cousin for the weekend. It wasn't a total lie. He did have a cousin near that town. He just wasn't planning on seeing him. The ride felt longer than it was. He stared out the window most of the way, turning everything over in his head. When the bus finally pulled into the station near Lincoln, the air felt sharper. Not colder, just heavier. Like the beginning of a storm you could feel in your chest before it hit the sky dot at the same time. Across town, Mia was sitting in her room with the lights off, staring at her phone. She hadn't left the house in 2 days. Her parents were trying to act normal, but she could feel it, the tension in their voices, the way her dad kept checking the locks, the way her mom looked at the back window every few minutes. Fear had settled into the corners of their house. Like dust dot, then her phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. You don't know me, but I think I know who you are. Don't freak out. I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help. I got a note with your photo. Someone thinks we're connected. I think they're right. Mia stared at the message, her heart skipping. She didn't know whether to block. The number or answer, that another message came through. I saw what happened. You didn't deserve it. They don't scare me. I think you need someone on your side, not for a fight. For the rest of this. Mia's hands trembled. She typed, "Who are you?" The reply came fast. Jamal. She didn't recognize the name. But somehow it didn't feel random. Why you? She typed dot. There was a pause. Then came the reply. Because someone believed. I would, and I don't want to let them down. But more than that, I don't want you to be alone in this. Mia didn't respond right away. She sat with the phone in her lap, staring at the screen. Then finally, with a long breath, she typed. One word. Where are you? Jamal stood just outside the coffee shop, the message from Mia still glowing on his phone screen. The words were simple, but they carried something heavy behind them. She'd asked where he was. Now she was waiting. Across the street, through the fogged-up glass, he spotted her sitting by the window. Same glasses, same quiet presence. But now he saw what the photo hadn't shown. A girl trying to hold herself together while the world watched her fall. Apart, he stepped in slowly. Mia looked up the moment he opened the door. Their eyes met, and for a second, nothing moved. No one spoke. Just the quiet hum of the shop and the weight of something neither of them could name yet. He walked over, pulled the chair out across from her, and sat down. I wasn't sure you'd actually come, she said softly, her fingers wrapped around a warm cup she hadn't touched. I wasn't sure either, he said, but here I am. She gave a faint, guarded smile. So, this note you got? He nodded and reached into his pocket. He pulled out the photo, carefully placing it on the table between them. Her face stiffened when she saw it. She looked at the hallway, the torn shirt, the blur of the crowd. Then she looked away, swallowing hard. I hate that this is what I'm known for now, she whispered. One moment, 1 second of my whole life, and now I'm a meme. A headline. You weren't weak, Jamal said, voice calm. You stood up, and they didn't expect that. She looked at him again, her eyes clearer now. But why are you here? Why would someone give this to you? He leaned forward. I don't know. I really don't. But that woman, the one on the bus, she said I reminded her of someone she lost, that she needed help, and that I was the kind of person who wouldn't turn away. That maybe I'd understand. Mia leaned back, thinking, her eyes narrowing. You said she gave you a photo of me. Why? Before Jamal could answer, the bell above the door jingled again. Both of them instinctively turned. A tall man in a dark jacket stepped in, scanned the room once, and walked to the counter. Nothing obvious, but Mia sat up straighter. Jamal noticed the tension in her shoulders. The way she went quiet all of a sudden. "You okay?" he asked. "I think I've seen him before," she said. "Outside school, maybe near my house." Jamal watched the man from the corner of his eye. He wasn't buying coffee. He was just standing there, pretending to read the menu. Without a word, Jamal slid the photo off the table and tucked it into his pocket again. Then he said softly, "We should go." Mia nodded. They walked out together, side by side, both pretending they weren't being watched. But as they crossed the street, Jamal turned his head slightly. The man was now standing in the window, phone to his ear, eyes following them. Definitely not just some stranger. Once around the corner, they picked up the pace. "My dad said someone was watching the house," Mia said breathlessly. "He thought it was just nerves, but now I know it's real." Jamal pulled his hoodie up. This isn't just about a school fight anymore. They ducked into a side alley and stopped to catch their breath. For a long moment, neither of them said anything. Then Mia spoke. "I didn't just throw those boys because I was angry. I threw them because they were going to keep going. They weren't going to stop. I'd already been cornered twice that week. The second time, one of them followed me to the bathroom. No one believed me." Jamal's fists clenched. "I did what I had to do," she continued. "And now, someone out there wants me to regret it." He looked at her, eyes steady. "You're not alone anymore." But Mia shook her head. "This isn't just about me anymore either. They've got people watching, maybe even listening. They don't want my story to get out. They want to scare me silent." As she spoke, Jamal remembered something. The envelope the woman had given him. He hadn't opened the second card that came with it. It was hidden behind the photo. He pulled it out now, carefully unfolding the small, square sheet. A location, an address, time-stamped. Tonight, 9:30 p.m. He showed it to Mia. She stared. "That's the edge of the city. Nothing's out there but train tracks and warehouses." Jamal looked at her. "Then why would she want us there?" Mia hesitated, then said, "Maybe it's not just her anymore. Maybe someone else is involved." Jamal folded the note and tucked it away again. "Then we go together." Later that evening, they met a few blocks from the location. Jamal had changed clothes. Mia had tied her hair back and slipped on a black jacket. Both had that quiet kind of nervous energy, the kind that comes before something you can't predict. As they walked toward the train tracks, the city lights dimmed behind them. Ahead, only silence and the glow of a single street lamp near an abandoned building. They stopped. Jamal looked at the time. 9:28 p.m. 2 minutes. Mia looked around. "What if it's a setup?" "Then we find out," he said. And then a car pulled up. The black SUV. The window rolled down, and it wasn't the pregnant woman behind the wheel. It was a man now, early 40s, clean cut, military posture. He motioned to them. "Get in." Jamal and Mia looked at each other. "What is this?" Jamal asked, not moving. "You were sent the note because you've already proven you're willing to take a risk for others," the man said. "We didn't lie to you. We test people, quietly, because some fights don't happen in courtrooms or classrooms. They happen in shadows. And we believe both of you are standing at the edge of something bigger." Mia stepped forward slightly. "Not inside yet." "Who's we?" The man glanced at his rearview mirror. "You'll meet her soon. She's waiting." Inside the warehouse behind them, a light turned on. One single bulb, one open door. Jamal's heart pounded in his chest. His fingers curled tight, his thoughts racing. Everything had led to this. The bus, the note, the photo, the message. And now, this moment, standing with Mia, about to step into the unknown. He looked at her. She looked back. Then they walked toward the door, and the darkness swallowed them whole. The warehouse air was still, thick with silence, broken only by the hum of the old light bulb overhead. Jamal and Mia stepped cautiously inside. Their eyes adjusted slowly to the dim lighting as their footsteps echoed softly against the concrete floor. Shadows stretched across rusted beams and dust-covered crates, each one making the space feel larger than it really was. At the far end stood the woman from the bus. She wasn't pregnant anymore. In fact, she didn't look anything like she had that day. She wore tactical black, hair tied back, and a cold kind of focus in her eyes. But when she saw Jamal, her expression softened just slightly. "You came," she said. Jamal nodded. "We want answers." Mia stood just behind him, tense but steady. She didn't say anything, not yet. She wanted to understand who this woman really was and why they were the ones being pulled into this. The woman motioned them closer. "My name's Elena. I work with a private security division. We don't answer to government or corporations. We work to protect people when systems fail them." Mia's voice came sharp and clear. "Why me?" Elena didn't hesitate. "Because you stood up. You showed restraint, training, control, under pressure. You didn't crack. You didn't retaliate to hurt. You responded to protect." "And me?" Jamal asked. Elena looked at him longer. "You gave your seat to a stranger in silence. You didn't record it. You didn't expect applause. People like that are rare. And when we find them, we bring them together." Mia stepped forward now. "But why the secrecy? Why the notes and games?" "Because if you'd been told the truth too soon," Elena said, "you wouldn't have believed it. You would have backed away. We needed to be sure you were already what we hoped." Jamal exchanged a glance with Mia. He still wasn't sure if this was a test, a trap, or the beginning of something real. Then Elena walked to a table in the corner, picked up a folder, and placed it in front of them. Inside were photos of Cameron, of his parents, of police reports filed and later erased, and then bank transfers, private meetings, influential connections. "Silenced girls before," Elena said flatly. "Yours was the first time someone fought back hard enough to make it public. That makes you dangerous to them." Mia's hands curled into fists. "They've tried everything to discredit you. They'll go further. We intercepted a message sent last night. They're planning to use someone close to you." Jamal leaned forward. "Like who?" Elena turned. Another page. It was a photo of Mia's father, walking into work. A red circle drawn around his face. Mia's breath caught in her throat. "No." Elena stepped closer. "That's why we brought you here. Because you're not the only one in danger anymore. They're going after your family, and we need to move before they do." Silence. Mia's voice trembled now. "What can we do?" Elena's eyes narrowed. "We fight. Not with violence, with proof, with exposure, with people who care enough to put the truth above comfort." She looked at Jamal. "That's why you were chosen. Because you're not afraid to stand for someone you barely know." Then she looked at Mia. "And you, because you have something they fear most, control over your own story." A sudden buzz broke the moment. Elena's earpiece. She pressed her finger to it, listening. "They've made their move," she sighed. Mia's heart dropped. "Where?" Elena looked them both in the eye. "Your house." Without another word, they were moving. Into the SUV. Out of the warehouse. Jamal sat in the back seat, Mia beside him. Neither spoke. The world outside the window blurred into streaks of light and motion. The city rushing past as their lives changed again. When they pulled onto Mia's street, her house was quiet. Too quiet. No lights on. No cars in the driveway. Elena gave hand signals to two men dressed in tactical gear behind them. Jamal touched Mia's hand. "We got this," he whispered, and then they stepped out, together, into the darkness, toward the one place they had always felt safe, until now. She was just a quiet girl, until the bullies pushed her too far, and her judo throw made the whole school stop and stare. He was just a kind stranger on a city bus, until a mystery woman handed him a note that would change everything. Now, Mia and Jamal have found each other, not by accident, but by design. They've stepped into something much bigger than school drama or random kindness. They're being watched, targeted, and the people pulling the strings? They're more powerful than anyone expected. As the shadows close in and Mia's family is threatened, one question remains. Can two teenagers stand up to the system and survive what's coming next?